Good day, poker peeps. Welcome to a little training video on the Smart HUD for PokerTracker 4. So this video came in response to a question I received from Josh B via email. He says, I am a lot more engaged with the Smart HUD, but I'm having some difficulties. In your videos, you explain about learning one exploit at a time and slowly using each exploit each session until you are a Smart HUD master. But my question is, what is your most basic form of approach with the Smart HUD? Well, thank you very much, Josh. I appreciate it. Now, if you are watching this and you don't have any experience with my Smart HUD, this is what it is right here. It has 16 statistics on the HUD, as well as 7 different custom pop-ups. And you can check out all the features of the Smart HUD by visiting smartpokerstudy.com/smarthud. But so to answer Josh's question, the most basic approach is I color code different player types. Now I use this generally with 2 stats, VPIP and PFR. Actually, let's take a look at this player up here. 44/8, 44 is his VPIP. This means 44% of the time he's voluntarily putting money into the pot. So he plays on average 44% of hands. That's quite a wide range, so we consider this player loose. Now, the PFR, or pre-flop raise, is only 8%, and you can see on the screen right there, it's 29 out of 383 instances. Now, this means that they make any kind of raise pre-flop 8% of the time. The important thing here is the gap between the two. 44 and 8, the gap is actually 36%. Quite a big gap right there. They raise 8% of the time, but they're calling roughly 36% of the time. This player is more passive than they are aggressive, so they would be considered a loose passive player. So I would automatically color code this player with this box here. I would give him the green color for that one. Another loose passive player, 35-13, a little bit more aggressive as you can see at 13%, but still that gap is just so big, I'm giving him the green color. 73-7, yeah, you can guess what this player is 100%. Very loose passive, plays 73% of hands, only raises 7. Sure, it's a small sample, but if they're this loose passive now, there's a good chance they're going to remain that loose passive. Now, it is only 15 hands, and I am often color coding players at just 10 or 15 hands. And the reason for that is I like the quick visual reference that color coding gives me, and I have no problem with changing it. Let's say when we're 50, 100 hands in, their stats turn out to be like this player right here. I simply open this bad boy up and just real quick select orange. Piece of cake, right? No big deal, just making a quick change. So I don't mind at all changing them or assigning a color even at 15 hands. 41-25, you can see this is a loose aggressive player. They play 41% of hands, and they come in for raises 25% of the time pre-flop. Lots of hands played, lots of aggression, loose aggressive player. And I give these players the good old orange color. And now another loose aggressive player right here. Give them orange as well. So you can see this is a pretty decent table to be at, right? We have 5 players who play a ton of hands. So because I play a tighter range, I get to the flop more often with a stronger range than they do. Plus, the 2 loose aggressive players at the table, they're on my right, making poker a little bit easier. And then this is 10NL. He's got a stack and a half, a full stack here, and a short stack. So we have lots of money to be playing for on this table. Now you can see nits I would classify as 8-8. This is only 13 hands. Who knows what I've been dealt the prior 12 hands or the prior 13 hands. But let's say this was a good sample and I've just noticed this player being very nitty, not playing a lot of hands and playing very aggressively and folding a lot. I would give them the red color for sure. Now looking over here, you can see as soon as I change this HUD color, this one changed as well. Now let's look at the players on this side. We've got tight aggressive players. 2017 is the example here. Tight because they only play 20% of hands on average. Aggressive because most of the time when they play a hand, they're doing it aggressively. They play 20%, they get aggressive 17% of the time. Tight aggressive player. I would give them the, sorry, these keep popping up on the other window, the yellow color right there. Now this player, another loose yet passive because that gap is really big. But look at this, their 3-bet is at 14%. Depending on how I feel at the time when I'm observing this player, I might give them a green, but because that 3-bet is so high, I would often give them an orange color. But as time goes on, we get closer to 300, 500, 1,000 hands, I might change that as well. Now this player doesn't play many hands and doesn't do any raising at all. I would, or I could consider this player a nit player, but because they have not raised at all, no 3-bets after 48 hands, I'm just going to give them the green. Sure, they're not super loose, they're not playing wide ranges, but they never come in for a raise. As soon as a green HUD player comes in for a raise, I know to be careful because it means they have a good hand, more likely than not. Oh, you can see this one's already color-coded green because we have villain 6 over here, same exact villain. Now right here, 39/16, but even though that's really high and 16% is decently high for PFR, so far 3-betting is at 0 out of 14 opportunities. I am going to give this player the green right there. Okay, so Josh, that is the basic use, or the number one thing that I always do with my HUD. I try to classify the opponents by player type and then color code them accordingly. Now, another thing I like to do is, of course, I utilize the HUD numbers to see what kind of exploits I can use on my opponents. Now, I put 3 different areas of exploits: stealing, 3-betting, and when you make a c-bet, when they're facing a c-bet, we could say. Now, I just chose these because these are the most common ones, and they're often the easiest ones to see. So if you see somebody with a high fold versus a steal at 70% or higher, you should steal quite often. Let's take a look. This one's at 75% over a big sample. Villain 9 is probably a good one to be stealing against right here. 68%, that's on the cusp. 0. 63 is a little low. 50%, no good. Oh, Villain 18 over here, folding at 80%. Oh, whoops. I would include them among my stealing targets here. 44, 50, 67, possibly. But they do fold, actually. Big blind versus small blind steal 100%. Yeah, let's include Villain 19 as well. And then right here, 61 and 60, they're not a bad target, but not the best. So my targets for stealing would be Villains 9, 18, and 19. Now, let's take a look at this one. Low big blind fold versus small big blind steal. That's this stat right over here. This player, Villain 8, who's a loose aggressive player, they are 0 out of 2. Not a big sample, but given how loose aggressive they are, oftentimes loose aggressive players love playing in position against you, and they don't fold their big blind against a small blind steal. So you do not want to steal against Villain 8 right here. He folds a decent amount. 58 is close to the cutoff, but we probably don't want to steal against Villain 10 either, and we don't know about Villain 7 just yet. But they're so loose passive, maybe we would want to. But let's put Villain 10 in here. What about on this side? Folds often, and then maybe all of these players. So these two, we'd probably want to be very careful before we steal in the small blind against their big blind. Now, when it comes to 3-bets, well, we want to see who is a 3-bet bluffer for ourselves. Before we open raise, if this person is still in the hand, if we open raise from the MP and they're in the cutoff or the button or the small blind, we've got to often expect a 3-bet if we see it over 5%, but especially over 8, 9, 10%. The higher their 3-bet percentage, the more likely they're going to 3-bet against us. So only at 4%, maybe not 3, 11%. Now, it is only 1 out of 9, but just imagine that we're 500 hands. If it was 11% over 500, sure, we would be very careful and expect to 3-bet from Villain 7. 3, 1, 6%, yeah, possibly, depending on their position. Maybe we know that they like to steal a lot. 3-bet steal from the button. Will be leery when they're on the button. Villain 17 over here, 14%, which is 9 out of 63. Wow, this person likes to 3-bet steal. 0, 0, and 2. Not worried about them so much. Now, who folds versus 3-bets greater than 60%? If you find a player like this, you want to 3-bet bluff them more frequently than somebody who never folds. So who are good 3-bet bluffing targets? They only fold 33%, 50%, no good, don't know anything yet, but very loose passive. So in general, we don't want to 3-bet bluff them. We would rather have a wider 3-bet value range. You probably wouldn't want to try to bluff a person like this with pocket 3s because they're so loose passive, they're probably not folding, even though we haven't seen them face any 3-bets yet. 15% and 0, not so much. Oh, folding 62, nice. Villain 18 would be a decent target for 3-bet bluffing. 0, don't know, 0, and 15. Well, maybe there's only one person at these two tables, the tight aggressive Villain 18, to 3-bet bluff against. Now, when you're facing c-bets, or when you are making c-bets, when you're opponent is facing c-bets. We want to see who is a flop honest player. Basically, that means they just fold a lot on the flop. When they fold a lot, we want to bluff the flop. So who folds? 47 is not that high. Oh, villain 8 at 84%. Lovely. We love c-bet bluffing this player. 100%. Now, it's probably only, it's 3 out of 3. He's a good one too to bluff. 68%, yes, definitely folding off in enough 44 out of 65 instances. If they fold 68%, that means they only continue 32%. They could be continuing with calls or re-raises, but either way, 32%, they're folding 68%, lovely person to bluff on the flop against. Folding 71%, same exact thing, we want to bluff them on the flop. So 61%, yeah, another one, baby. Lovely. Folding just 50. Folding 100. 2 out of 2. Yeah, at least for now, until they decide to fight back, we can be bluffing villain 16 on the flop. Villain 19 right here, 100%. 2 out of 2. Sure, why not? And then we've already listed villain 6 as a foldy person right there. Cool, so we have a lot of people that we can bluff on the flop against. What about bluffing the turn? So this means that they're turn honest. So we want to see an increase from their fold to flop c-bet to fold to turn c-bet. So we want to look for turn honest players who fold a lot there. They fold more on the flop than the turn, so they are not turn honest, they're more flop honest. Same thing here, flop honest. We don't know enough about this player yet. Maybe, but it's only been 15 hands. We need to see them face some turn c-bets. Over here, more flop honest, more flop honest, more flop honest. Nothing, nothing. More flop honest, slightly more turn honest right here. And you could see folding 61%, 71%, 82% on the river. A really good person to be triple barreling against, especially if like the flop hits. Maybe they could have hit a lot of good draws on the flop, but the turn and river go blank, blank, and you have nothing at all. Pretty good spot to be bluffing triple barrels against this guy. So I would say the only player here that we want to bluff on the turn necessarily, or who is turn honest, is villain 18. Alrighty, so thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button down below, ding the bell for notifications for every new video that comes out, and of course, if you're interested in the Smart HUD, go to smartpokerstudy.com/smarthud. I'll catch you on the flip side.